Hello, FPL managers. Welcome back to the FPL Optimized podcast. This is episode number 121, and we are quite excited as we are finally doing a podcast together again. I am Bas, the casual manager, and my co host is Sertalp, the data scientist. This is the podcast in which we combine analytics with the good old eye test. Data or grass, or data and grass? That's the question. So, Sertalp, finally a regular episode which we're doing together. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I really missed recording with you. Uh,
Yeah,
but at the same time, I just noticed that when I uploaded the episode last week, when I shared it on Blue Sky or maybe on
yeah.
Twitter, I also posted your image with the beer. You can remember.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
one got more liked than the episode. So I'm thinking
Oh,
maybe we should do just a beer and jersey
beer
evaluation
pictures.
podcast from now on, not an FPL podcast.
Oh,
But
I
it's good
didn't
to
know.
good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I think we had a few strange weeks, right, where there was like midweek games, and yeah, I recorded once by myself, and then you recorded once by yourself. But now we're back, and by the way, well done last week with your solo episode. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it, and it was good that you could still cover the usual content. Yeah, for today, to kick things off, let's look at how our teams have been doing and what the score is in our head to head competition.
I finished game week with 71 points, which means I was 10 points over the safety score. So I got into 100k finally. I'm at
Mhm.
88k. I
Nice.
was particularly lucky with Fernandez because he was a big differential for me. Like he had a tough fixture and I had to keep him. And him
Yeah.
getting 9 points, I think, made a huge difference for my team. And I see that you got 60, which means I got another win. I got closer.
Yeah, well done. No, no, it's good. I'm still leading by one win over you, I think.
Mm-hmm.
14 versus 13, but it's close. Like last season, it's really close, so that's good. But yeah, but my OR has been quite stable in the like 210, 230k range for the last 5 weeks. So that's not great, I would say, and it feels like I need a kind of a breakthrough. And my scores haven't been that bad, but yeah, it's just really average. Haven't been dropping rank, but I also haven't been gaining. And that was a bit the same in game week 28 with the score of 60 points, which was just 8 points above the average. And besides captaining Salah, the only other players who returned decent points were Watkins with 9 points, Kluivert with five, and then Kerkis with four. And I did bring in Marmouche for Kakbo, but yeah, I knew that was a bit of a gamble. I was a bit kind of betting on the hopefully, let's say, City getting into better form, which really didn't happen. And also, yeah, hoping that Marmouche could do something, but then he ended on the bench, so that didn't work out too well. But hopefully he'll make up for it next game. And in the end, I think we can still be quite happy that we captained Salah, right? Because I think there were also
Yeah.
quite some people who went for Palmer, who had the more secure minutes and also the good home game against Leicester. But that was quite a big swing between the Salah and the Palmer captainers. So yeah, quite happy that we made the right decision on that one.
Yeah. We have been on the other end of this kind of uh like 50-50 decisions in past, so I know how annoying this could be. But yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think it was a bad decision on their part
no,
to give them the credit. So it was a close in terms of the projections and
yeah,
like even in terms of like other factors. I think when you think about it, when you think
yeah.
about the minutes, obviously Palmer was more secure as you mentioned. So it's
Yeah.
just unlucky.
Yeah, how was that for you actually? Because I was kind of thinking that you might have captained Palmer, so I was a bit like hoping you would have done it. Was it close call for you or not really?
Uh, I don't remember what went into my decision
Okay,
making there. I think I felt like I'm in a good rank right now. Maybe it was like
okay,
around 400k ish. I would have Captain Palmer
okay.
to make up for the the difference.
Yeah.
Well, it could have made things worse, obviously, but I felt like I don't need to take this risk. The EV was very close anyway between the two. I
Yeah.
felt like going with the secure player in
Okay.
terms of the ownership is a better idea.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So yeah, let's look forward to game week 29 now, which is, as we know, a blank game week. So I think most people, especially people listening to our podcast, have prepared for it. I'm also quite sure there are a lot of casual managers who are probably surprised now by the blanks, and they either need to use the free hit or need to take a few hits to get to 11 players. For me, I have two free transfers, and if I use those, I should have 11 available players. If everyone starts and if no one gets injured. So yeah, quite excited about the weekend, and still a few decisions to make about which players I should bring in. And I think it will be an interesting week. As I said, some people will be free hitting, so that certainly will something will come back on to look at the optimal free hit team. And again, also probably some people will be taking hits. Um, yeah, something to look forward to. Let's look at the fixture ticker to see which teams we should be investing in.
Sure. And this horizon, Arsenal is the top team for the next 6 game weeks. They have 3 good fixtures. In game week 30, they play against Fulham. In game week 32, they play against Brentford. And 33, they have the Ipswich game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are just watching on YouTube and if you are wondering why these numbers are a little bit high, or like some of them are maybe too low, um, well, know that there are some like double and blank possibilities which are affecting these scores. So we are not showing all those possibilities.
Yeah.
And some models are incorporating it, some models don't. So that when we take the average, it's a little bit difficult to understand maybe. But yeah, we just wanted to share the average projections, and Arsenal is the top team with these 3 fixtures looking good. Manchester City is the second team in this list, and their favorable fixtures are Leicester in game week 30 and Everton in game week 33. They also play against Brighton this week, and the offense point average is 5.0, which is actually not that bad. But yeah, obviously, like they have much better fixtures. But if you just look at the game week 29, it is the highest offensive rating. And then if you are just looking from that perspective, Bournemouth against Brentford has 4.8 offense point average, and Arsenal against Chelsea 4.6. So
Hmm.
from that perspective, yeah, even though it is maybe not the best fixture in this horizon, as far as game week 29 fixtures go, offensively, it's a good one.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but defensively, they are behind Arsenal. Like Arsenal has 4.0 average projected
Hmm.
points in their Chelsea game, but for Manchester City, defense average is only 3.7. So things to consider, especially if you are free hitting. But in the third place, we have Liverpool. Liverpool has a blank. But rest of the horizon looks interesting. They have Everton in game week 30, West Ham in game week 32, Leicester 33, and Tottenham 34. And
Mm-hmm.
all of these are favorable fixtures. And
Hmm.
their only fixture that is not marked favorable is against Fulham in game week 31. Even that one is pretty good. So if you
Yeah.
look at the average, then their offense point average is quite high. It is 5.5. It is the highest among all teams. So
Hmm.
it's a matter of whether you will keep Salah or you will sell him to finance like Haaland. So it's I guess,
Yes.
tough question for many people. But in the fourth place, we have Bournemouth. They have Ipswich game in game week 30, which is favorable. Again, their fixture this game week is Brentford. It's not that bad. 4.8 offense point average and 3.5 is the defense uh, point average. And then we have Chelsea in
Hmm.
the fifth place. And then we have Newcastle, Wolves, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, and Manchester United in this order based on fixture
Hmm.
difficulties. What do you think, Bas?
Not much to say. I mean, the top teams are at the top of the chart as usual. Liverpool in the third spot, probably also because they have the blank now
Mm-hmm.
coming up, as you said. And also, yeah, we need to wonder now a little bit what it means that they're out of the Champions League. Like, we're recording on Wednesday. Yesterday evening, they lost on penalties against Paris Saint-Germain. So basically, they just have the league now to focus on because they're also out of the FA Cup. Um, so you could say maybe for Salah, because there were indeed people I think considering to sell him, because I think the argument was like, they are close to winning the league already, and then they might rotate. But if they have nothing else to play for, then maybe it's more likely that also Salah will just keep getting his minutes, and he can beat some records in the Premier League this season with all the goals and the assists that he's having. So personally, I would be quite reluctant on selling Salah. I would rather sell Palmer, I think, based on current form. Just if you're looking to save budget, kind to move to Haaland, then that's what is on my mind now. Like, do I still need Palmer? Things can easily change again, of course, right? I mean, we know how good Palmer can be, and he has been also at the start of the season. But just let's say, based on recent trends, I would rather sell Palmer than
Mm-hmm.
Salah. But yeah, that's probably something we will all have to look at. For the rest, yeah, Arsenal top of the chart, but as we know, a lot of injuries, so it's a bit unclear where we should go there, where we should invest. Let's hope maybe that some players will return soon. We saw that Martinelli came back. He was on the bench and he got some minutes in the last game. So if some players are coming back, then maybe it gives us a few more options again at Arsenal. And City is still a bit strange, right? Like we thought they were getting back into form, but then they lost against Nottingham, which
Mm-hmm.
of course can happen. Nottingham is doing really well, as we all know, and that was a really big win for them. Um, but normally you would, yeah, City from previous seasons, you would expect them to win such games, and you would invest in Haaland. To get some goals. And I think that's probably what we will be doing, looking at the fixtures coming up, and likely I think also a few doubles still for City.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, yeah, City will be a team we'll be looking at. But yeah, enough decisions still to be made towards the end of the season. And maybe the last one to mention is here is Newcastle. It's let's say a bit low on the chart, probably also because they have the blank. I
Mm-hmm.
think next week they might show up a bit higher, right? Because I think they are the only one here where the double game week is confirmed, at least in
Mm-hmm.
this view, game week
Yes.
32, which makes them, of course, interesting as well. And potentially a triple captaincy option for those of us who still have the chip.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, also something to keep in mind.
Yep. Sounds.
All right, excellent. So this is the fixture ticker. Let's keep that in mind, and we'll switch now, and we'll look at some of the best player options we should be looking at.
Again, we will just give the names of top players in each position, both from a projected point of view for the next 6 game weeks, and also best value, like top 3 players. For goalkeepers, we have Raya at the top with 24.9 projected points for the next 6 game weeks. And then we have Kepa in the second place again with 22.1. And in the third place, we have Ederson with the same projected points, 22.1 for the next 6 game weeks. But if you are looking for the value where we are dividing total projected points to the price, the top goalkeeper is Sa with 20.9 projected points. So as you see, he's not that far from the top picks,
Mm-hmm.
but he's quite cheap at 4.3 million. And then we have Kepa in the second place, 22.1 projected points again. And he's also pretty cheap with 4.6 million right now. And Verbruggen is the third best value goalkeeper with 20.5 projected points for the next 6 game weeks. If you look at the fixtures here, like Raya has the best fixtures for the next 6 game weeks among these top 3 players I named. And for the budget goalkeepers, though, so the top option actually changes a little bit, but pretty good projected points overall for
Yeah.
some here.
Yeah, and that will be interesting also when we will be looking at our wildcard teams, because I think
Yeah.
many people will wildcard probably in game week 30 or get 31. We'll look at that later as well. So of course, yeah, one of the decisions we'll need to make is the goalkeeper position.
Yeah.
For me, currently, I still have Pickford, who is relatively expensive at 5 million, and lately hasn't done too much. So I might be looking at some other options, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And in defenders, we have Gabriel. He was the top like defender for a while
Mhm.
now. Again, he's here with 26.9 projected points over 6 game weeks, and then we have Saliba at the second place, 25.1, and we have Guardiol at the third place with 24.6. If you look at the value, we have Burn at the top. Uh, but again, we don't apply any decay, meaning that we evaluate the whole horizon together.
Yeah.
And here they have a blank in game week 29, but they have a double in 32. So in terms of total fixtures, it's the same as other players, and
Right.
his projected points are pretty good. But it doesn't mean that he's a good pick this game week, obviously, with
No.
the blank. But his
Yeah.
projected points over the horizon is 19.1. Is again compared to like other top 3 defenders, it's not that high, but he's a pretty good value at the price point. And we have Ait Nori at the second place with 20.6 projected points, and then we have Gabriel actually. So he is the
Yeah.
top projected points player and also the third best value defender with 26.9 projected points. But yeah, if you divide by the price, it's still a pretty good value.
Yeah.
um for midfielders, we have Salah at the top. Again, the same thing, they're blanking, but the rest of the horizon looks pretty good. His projected points is 39.8. And we have Palmer in the second place with 37.5 projected points. And then in the third place, we have Bruno Fernandes with 29.5. If we look at the value options, we have Murphy with 23.9 projected points,
Hmm.
but he's again pretty cheap at 5 million price tag. We have Semenyo in the second place with 26.7 projected points, and 5.7 million is the current price. And Kluivert with
Yeah.
28.6 projected points, pretty decent with 6.2 million price. So he's also pretty good in terms
Yeah.
of like points divided by the price.
Yeah.
Um,
A good point, and I think it's interesting that we see again a Newcastle player there at the top of the list.
mhm.
For the defenders, it was Burn, and for the midfielders, is Murphy. And yeah, I think big big part of that is of course the double game week in 32. And something we can look at the Newcastle options. I think many people had Hall. I still have him actually in my team. I see that he will drop again in price tonight, so this is
Mhm.
something that people need to keep an eye on. Of course, we know he's out for the season. I think also Botman is still injured for a little while. So yeah, in defense, Burn can be an interesting option. And in midfield, of course, we have Gordon, but if you cannot afford him, then Murphy could be another option.
Yeah, and also they have, as you mentioned, they have good fixtures. I mean, and they have
Yeah,
Leicester in 31, double game week in 32, obviously,
yeah,
and then in game week 34 against Ipswich. So all of those
yeah,
are pretty good looking.
definitely. Yeah.
And among forwards, again, we have Haaland at the top with
Mhm.
40.1 projected points. And then in the second rank, we have Isaac, 36.2. And in the third place, we have Wood with 29.6 projected points over the next 6 game weeks. If we look at the value options, Strand Larsen is again the top option. He was also the top option last week with 21.9 projected points. So as you see, there's a significant drop from the top projected points, where Wood is projected to get 29 points, and then Strand Larsen is only 21. But yeah, so these players can enable certain improvements in your team, so that's why they're interesting to look at. In the second place, we have Vardy with 22.1 projected points, and then Raul Jimenez at the third place with 22.6 projected points.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Wood is well, we talked about him before, right? He has having a really good season, and I think he's also a really good option now for the final stretch of the season with some good fixtures at the horizon, and also now a good fixture for game week 29. And I think for the first time this season, I might be bringing him in. So quite looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Finally, Wood in my team. Well, still a decision to be made, but I think that might be one of my likely transfers for this week.
Sure.
Okay, so we looked at the player options. Yeah, as we said, game week 29 is a blank game week. I think many people, including ourselves, have planned for it, unless your plans change, Sertalp. But I think we will not be free hitting, but
Yeah.
other people will be. So let's look at the free hit team, the optimal one for this week.
hmm So, well, optimal free hit team depends on your budget, on your team value, like how much you can
Mm.
afford, obviously. I used, again, my team as a reference, even though I'm not free hitting. So this could be different. Also, we are using here a mix of FPL review and Mikhail Toklam's projection model,
Okay.
depending on which model you are looking and what kind of, again, like what kind of risk you are trying to take. This could be all different, but I will go over this free hit team, optimal free hit team in
Yeah.
quotations. We have Raya in the goal. As I mentioned, he is the one of the highest projected points goalkeeper for this week. Even though the game is not that particularly like good against Chelsea,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, but yeah, game week 29 is just like this. I mean, the
Yeah.
games look pretty pretty bleak. You have Gabriel in defense, so you are doubling the Arsenal defenders
Yeah.
in this case. Dallo playing against Leicester, and then we have Ait Nouri. So he's
Yep.
not a surprise because we have just seen his name. In
Yep.
midfield, we have Odegaard, Kluivert, Semenyo, and Bruno Fernandes. So you have two Bournemouth midfielders, one Arsenal, that's the last Arsenal spot, and also Bruno Fernandes, we talked about him, but his projected point is pretty decent this week. And in forward, we have Beto, Haaland, and Haaland is the captain, and Wood against
Hmm.
Ipswich. So like looking at this team, it looks pretty decent to me. And then on the bench we have Pickford as the bench goalkeeper, Mbomo and Mazroi and Tarkovsky. So again, pretty decent choices overall.
Yep.
I think the team looks good, even though like the defense is not giving me the best vibes. Their projected points are also not that high compared to other players. But
No.
yeah, again, like the game week is a little bit weird, so it's not.
Yeah, that's true. They're not better options, I guess. I mean, you have two Bournemouth midfielders. In my case, I have two Bournemouth defenders,
Mm-hmm.
but it is Brentford. We know Brentford can score goals with Wissa and Mbumo, so I understand that maybe in the optimal team there are no Bournemouth defenders, but there are instead Bournemouth midfielders.
Mm-hmm.
And what I will have in my team is two Everton defenders, or I will have Pickford and Mikalenko. So they're at
Mm-hmm.
home, but they are against West Ham. Um, well, West Ham should be possible for Everton to keep a clean sheet, but yeah, you never know, of course, especially with Bowen in the team. So yeah, but that's what it is. I think the one that I would like to have in my team and I don't have for the week is Bruno. away to Leicester, because I think last couple of game weeks he's been scoring quite some points. He's been doing well for your team, and
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
bit worried that he will do the same again in the next game week. So yeah, that's. But I don't think I can get to him. And the other one is Haaland. Probably also can't get to him unless I go for a -4 and I sell Palmer. But yeah, I don't feel that's necessary.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're not considering anymore to free it, right? You will have
No.
11 players.
I currently have only 4 players not playing this game week, and I have 3 free transfers. So
Oh
if I
wow!
just use one, I will be good
Oh wow!
this week. Yeah.
That's good. Well done. Well done. Okay, so this is the free hit team, but I do know that some people also advocated already to use the wild card in 29. So it sets you up for the blank game week, but it can also then set you up for the future game week. So I think we will see different strategies in the next game weeks. We will see people free hitting. We will see people wild carding already now, and I think many other people will either wild card in game week 30 and game week 31. So today we also wanted to look at some of those wild card options, and we'll start with a wild card 29 team.
Yeah, wildcard 29. If you ask my honest opinion, I think it's a little bit early. I understand
Yeah.
some people might be forced to do this, but like we don't exactly know which fixtures we will
Right.
have regarding blanks and doubles, so I would
Yes.
rather wait. But yeah,
Yeah.
I like there's a big discussion board in our analytics Discord about wildcard 29. Some people are
Okay.
already doing it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's I'm not sure how they are approaching it exactly as far as the fixture combinations go. But yeah, for
Yeah.
the average projected points, when I just throw the data to solver, I get this team. I have Sa in the goal, but Henderson is the bench goalkeeper, and they kind of rotate. And I
Mm.
mentioned this in the last episode too. They rotate pretty nicely. Um,
Okay.
we have Gabriel, Saliba, Guardiol in defense. Again, these are the like top defenders as we have seen
Yeah.
just a moment ago. In midfield, we have Kluivert, Semenyo, Palmer, Fernandez.
Okay.
Although it starts with Fernandez, Fernandez is sold for SAR in game week 30. Um,
Oh.
and also in forward we have Beto this week, but he is sold for Isaac next game week. So
Mm.
obviously this initial choice depends a lot on how many free transfers you have. Uh,
Yeah.
back in the good old days, it was pretty easy to solve for wildcard because your free hit was
Ah.
your free transfers were resetting. So it kind of
Reset.
now depends on your free transfer level right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so in
True.
my case, I have free transfer, so that's what the solver
Yeah.
wants.
Good.
Haaland is the captain,
Yeah.
so it goes without Salah until game week 34 here. It starts with Haaland, and Haaland stays in the team until he's sold to finance Salah in game week 34. And then in the other forward is Evan Nilsson, and he plays in 5 out of 6 game weeks that I'm showing here. There are
Wow.
some scheduled other transfers, but yeah, this is mainly the main strategy here. So what do you think,
Yep.
Bas?
No, it looks pretty strong, and yeah, I think of course the downside of the strategy is that you will miss some players that are blanking this game week, like Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, Crystal Palace, and you will see that the solver is bringing some of those players in, especially and we see Newcastle and Crystal Palace players because they have to double in 32. So to your point, you need if you do wildcard now, of course you can put some players on your bench. So you could already include some Liverpool and Palace and Newcastle players and well maximum three basically and put them on the bench. But you also
Yeah.
need to consider that you need to have transfers to bring them in, which is probably not possible for everyone. So just for that reason, it doesn't sound ideal to me. And also the other reason, to your point, is like we don't know yet all the fixtures. It will depend on the next round of the FA Cup. And I think by game week 31 we should have a much better picture. So I think
Yeah.
if you value the information, then it could be better to wait.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, the team looks quite good, and Evan Nielsen is interesting, of course, right? Because yeah, we had Dango at Bournemouth who did so well, but we saw last game week that Evan Nielsen was back in the team and he scored a goal. So it makes sense to bring him in, even though I wonder if there could be some minutes risk,
Mm-hmm.
just based on the good performance that Dango has shown.
Yeah. Even here, I think you kind of can see that his minutes is 76, meaning that
Yeah,
he's not expected to play the full like 90 minutes, obviously. So
yeah.
you're right. Good point.
Okay. So then, yeah, let's see what the difference would be if you wildcard in game week 30.
Game Week 30 is well, obviously similar in some aspects, but also a little bit different. So Solver still does that Haaland to Salah switch in game week 34, but starts with slightly differently. So we have Raya in the goal, and the other goalkeeper is Sa. So instead of Sa and Henderson, it starts with Raya and Sa. But it buys Henderson still in game week 32, so it spends that transfer for the goalkeeper just to have Raya for next two game weeks.
Okay.
In the defense, we have Gabriel, Guardiol, Livramento. In midfield, we have Kluivert, Semenyo, Palmer, Eze, Sar. And in forward, we have Haaland and Isaac. Um, so, yeah, a little bit difficult. Also, part of the problem here is that if you're wildcarding in game week 30, depending on whether you are free hitting in game week 34, the team might be different. But yeah,
Right.
so this
Okay.
is the team, and then the scheduled transfers are. So it doesn't make any transfers immediately in game week 31, but buys Henderson for Raya, and then buys Gordon by selling Kluivert, so
Mm.
that you have Gordon for the double, but then
Yeah.
the solver sells him immediately for Bowen in game week 33, and then sells
Okay.
Bowen for Salah. So there's quite a bit of a
Wow.
switch between midfielders until it buys Salah. But what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it shows that what I mentioned earlier, like in game week 29, you cannot get in this case, for example, the Crystal Palace players, and you see that if you wildcard in 30, then it has already Eze and Sar from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings in those players, and also they play in most games, and especially of course in the double game week 32. I'm a bit surprised that there are no Liverpool players at the start of the team, at the start of the window.
Mm-hmm.
It only brings in Salah, as you said, in game week 34. So the solver is going without Liverpool for four game weeks, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah.
All right. And then if we go to game week 31, would that be different?
Goalkeeper wise, it is same Sa and Henderson, so they again rotate well. We have Gabriel, Guardiol, Livramento in defense again.
Hmm.
Um, some interesting choices in the midfield. So it has Palmer as a Gordon from the start. It
Yeah.
also starts with Son, but just for a
Okay.
game, just for this week.
Okay. And
And
Southampton. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm not sure what's the thinking here from the solver, but it has Son and Sar, and in forward we have Solanke and Isaac, and it captains Son for like against Southampton this week, but sells him immediately for Enzo in game week 32 and sells Solanke for Haaland, but
Mm-hmm.
keeps Isaac obviously for the double in game week 32. Um, so yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it just spends a transfer later to have Son in game week 31, but have Haaland. But Haaland stays for only 2 game weeks, and then Solver sells him for Wood, that way it is kind of financing, like providing funds for bringing in Salah. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is slightly different, obviously, but
Mhm.
I think in this case you have, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players doubling in game week 32, and potentially, obviously, more doubles going forward with
Yeah,
some of these selections. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. But what you mentioned in the beginning, you started here with with 4 free transfers, right? So that I think
yes,
certainly has an influence on the solutions that we see, because there are quite some transfers scheduled in, which normally I think we wouldn't do.
yeah, that's
But
true.
yeah, again, Salah. So that was the same in the previous solve. So it just brings in Salah for 1 game week, 34, to captain
Mm.
him at home against Tottenham, and for the rest it goes without Salah. So it's interesting because we were talking about that earlier, right? Like people are thinking about selling Salah for the last part of the season, and it seems to be it looks like the solver is kind of agreeing to it.
Yeah, I need to repeat this maybe with getting the ensemble of all models, because I feel like in review Salah is not, his projections are not as high as other
Okay.
models. So
Mm-hmm.
only viable like captaincy game week for Salah in this case is game week 34. So like if this is the
Yeah.
thinking, and if you still have the free hit, like instead of spending transfers to,
Oh,
going
yeah.
from Holland to Wood, and then it sells Isaac for Holland,
Yes.
just to have Salah in game week 34. It's also a nice switch, maybe, but still, like you are spending 2 minute transfers just to make it happen. You can just free hit in game week 34 and uh,
Yeah,
you
that's
know
a good point.
get him if that's the
That's a good
case. But
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
I might try with the ensemble model and see if it is fundamentally different when the time
Okay.
comes. Because like we're also
All right.
thinking of wildcarding around that time. So and when game week 31 comes, we will have more idea on
Yes.
double sampling. So yeah, this will be
Yeah.
different.
No, we'll definitely look at this again in future episodes. We just wanted to cover this now already because, as we said, I think many people will have wildcard in mind, especially for game weeks 30 and 31. So it's good to already take a little bit of a preview
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
how such team would look like.
definitely.
Okay, let's move to the final data point for today, which is the captaincy matrix.
Um, so in captaincy, we have Haaland as the top player with 6.68 projected points.
Hmm.
And then we have Bruno Fernandes in the second place with 5.57. Wood is at the third place with 5.27. Uh, Kluivert at 5.03. In the fifth place, we have Odegaard, and finally Semenyo at the sixth place. All models agree that Haaland is the best captain option this week. And most models think Bruno Fernandes is the second highest, second best pick. Only Fantasy Football Fix has Wood as the second best option instead of Fernandez, and Fantasy Football Hub has Palmer as the second best option.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, this is how it looks like. So
Will you have Haaland in your team?
I'm not sure. Haven't decided.
Not sure.
Like I think when I was looking
Okay.
at the souls, I keep Salah. I think. So I guess
Okay.
I can captain Fernandez if that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can captain Bruno. Yeah. Yeah, I might captain Wood. Like if I bring him in, he'll probably
yeah.
be my captain, I think.
It will be an exciting battle between us then.
Yeah, in general, I think it will be a nice game week because I think, as mentioned earlier, there will also be some people taking hits to have 11 players. So, yeah, hopefully we can. Well, I wanted to say, well, hopefully we can gain some rank, but you never know. But I keep hoping. I keep
Yep,
hoping.
yep, yep.
Okay, and I think you also have the captains for the future game weeks.
Yeah, again, I wanted to show this or mention this so that people are more aware what
Yeah.
goes on with the captaincy long term. If we look at the ensemble, Haaland is the best captain this week, and then he's also the best option next week with 8.1. But Salah is
Hmm.
close at 7.9.
Okay.
And then in game week 31, Salah is actually the highest with 6.7, and Isaac is the second one. In game week 32, obviously Newcastle is doubling, so like Isaac is the top option with
Yeah.
11.58. I think he's a really good triple captaincy option
Yeah.
if you haven't used it yet. And
Yeah.
Gordon is the second that game week, but some difference between the two. In game week 33, Salah is leading with 8.2, but Haaland is at 7.5. In game week 34, Salah is clearly ahead, 8.3, and Isaac at 6.9. But if you look at the models, I mean, there's quite a bit of a disagreement. I mentioned this last week too. Like, for example, in FPL review, Salah is the top option only in game week 34, and he's not in top two in any other game
Mhm.
weeks. Like Haaland is the top two options, game week two, like in game both in game top option in game week 29 and 30, and then Palmer 31 is the best option in review, and Isaac in 32. All models agree on that one. In game week 33, for example, most models think Salah is the best option, but FPL review and Mikkel has Haaland as the top option, and they don't even have Salah in top two.
Okay.
So I think it kind of depends. If you look at the ensemble, like you see Salah like appearing here, and if you use that data, there's a good chance that the model or the solver will roll or keep Salah and try to skip Haaland, and then probably captain Fernandes this game week, and Salah next game week. And then because obviously Salah in that case is the ideal option for captaincy in 31 and
Yeah.
33, and obviously 34. So it
Yeah.
depends a lot on which model you are following. But since
Right.
analytics folks follow review closely,
Yeah.
and also Mikael Tokman is also popular, so I feel like there will be lots of people who are selling Salah for
Okay.
Haaland. But yeah, we will see. I'm just curious to see
Yeah.
how this will go. This is a very
Yeah, and also
strange
let's see if
period.
the minutes will change now based on that they're
True.
kicked out of the
Yeah,
Champions
that's
League.
true. That's true.
Maybe that was being considered here. That Salah will be getting less minutes, so he can play more minutes for the Champions League, but that's not necessary anymore, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
let's see if this evolves. All right, lots of data we covered. Thanks a lot,
Mm-hmm.
Sertalp, for
Sure.
preparing this. I think we can wrap it up today, and we can take a look at our mini league. It's actually been a while, so it's good to see if we still see some familiar names in there or not. And we do see a familiar name in number one. It's Abhinav C, with his team taking quickly Origi. I think we mentioned his name quite often in this podcast, so that means he has been having a really good season. He had a bit of an average game week 28 with 53 points, but his total is 2070, which is number 74 OR. So he's top 100 OR, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Well done, Abhinav. Keep it up. And number two, we have a new name. At least I don't think we mentioned him in this pod before. It's Carl Weeks. Welcome to the top three, Carl. He had a game week score of 69 points, and he's 22 points behind our number one, Abhinav. And then number three is a name we've seen before, and it's also a really difficult name. So I will just leave it at Kitty K. I think I did that last time as well. I hope you don't mind. Let me see, Kitty Hop, I think, maybe I pronounce it well, but let's just say Kitty had a score of 50 points, so also not the best game week, but still really doing well overall, and he's 21 points behind our number two, Call. So yeah, well done to the top three, and keep it up. And that's it for today. Next week will be an international break. That's been a long time that we had an international break, but
Yeah.
there is one coming up. At least I think it's next week. Is that international break or is it FA Cup? I'm actually not sure now. But at least there is a there is a weekend without Premier League games. So we'll see what we will do next week, whether we will have an episode or not. The advice to you is to subscribe to the podcast, so then you will get notified when the next episode is out. And as you know, you can also follow us on X. For Sertalp, it's at Sertalp Bilal, and for me, it's at BalfiBB. And Sertalp is also on Blue Sky. And keep in mind that if you want to see a bit more data and a bit more analysis, you can always go to the website, which is fploptimized.com.
Until next time, stay curious and stay analytical. Goodbye.